These proceedings are now called to order. You may be.
Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, Emory trustees, faculty, candidates, all who have given so much to nurture the support of those who graduate today, good morning to you. It is with undampened enthusiasm that I welcome you to this 167th commencement exercise of our university. This moment marks the culmination of years of study and preparation that have gone into all of your degrees. The presence of family signifies the support, love, and belief in you that have helped to make this moment possible. So to all, welcome to this time-honored and festive occasion. And I call now upon Reverend Susan Henry Crow, Dean of the Chapel of Religious Life, to offer the invocation.
Let us pray. O God, we give you thanks for the wisdom and wit, imagination and intellect, service and commitment of the founders, trustees, president, and provost, and all the stewards of the legacy of Emory University. O God, you watch over and guide this institution in the wonder of educating, the gladness of teaching, the joy of discovery, and the bewilderment of exploring the unknown. We acknowledge that not all that we have done is noble. We regret the wrongs. Forgive us and lead us on into the light. On this day, we celebrate these graduates. These classes have been tireless in casting a vision of a world that is green, communities that are just, friends that are other, and dreams that are large. To a perplexed world, may they bring courage and hope. With gladness of heart, we receive these honorees into this community of scholars. Their vocations are expressed in the courageous use of their intellects to empower the human spirit. With gritty courage and scholarship, wild patience and wisdom in guiding higher learning. With bold commitment to the healing arts. With audacious imagination in the uses of media and the arts. In brave critique in theater and literature. In fearless design of a more moral and just economic system. May their gritty, bold, brave, audacious, fearless imaginations and courage inspire us. May we never squander our education. Bless all those who retire from these their beloved labors. Hold them in your care. And now we pause in gratitude for this moment and all that lies before us. Amen.
Class of 2012, you have every right to be proud of the accomplishments that have brought you to this day. And even as you have been privileged to receive at Emory an education of a kind that is not easy to achieve anywhere, I can assure you that those of us among the faculty, staff, and administration of this university have felt privileged to spend these important years with you. You know, each graduating class, those earning graduate and professional degrees, along with those finishing undergraduate careers, each class seems to forge a distinctive identity for itself. And that is certainly true of you, this class. You are a class, I suggest, and will defend, a class of empathy. A class that has shown that you can achieve individual authenticity and exercise individual integrity by caring for others and for your community. Most of you came to Emory in the fall of 2008. Not a terribly auspicious time to start a long and, frankly, expensive endeavor, such as the one you're now finishing. The U.S. economy, and indeed the world, entered into what would become a new economic climate that is unlikely to change anytime soon, and that certainly affected your thinking and your plans 4 years ago. Now, you might have responded to that occasion, and could be forgiven, I suppose, by drawing into yourselves, by looking after what is good for you alone for numero uno. Instead, you found unusual resources of empathy with which you reached beyond yourselves and thereby enriched your lives and those of others. Allow me to give some examples of what I mean. For example, 2 of your classmates led the way in starting a hardship fund for students, a fund that made it possible for some of your fellow students to find a means to stay in school in the face of personal catastrophe. Another classmate collaborated with Emory's Michael C. Carlos Museum to create a program for men and women in the early stages of Alzheimer's and related dementia, to explore art with their caregivers as a way of fostering expression, memory, and meaningful experience. You are the first class at Emory to include graduates of our master's program in development practice. This is a program that trains graduates to help create sustainable development in the face of global poverty, climate change, depletion of natural resources, and political and ethnic conflict. Certainly that is a response out of empathy in behalf of building stronger communities. You also have demonstrated for the world the path to enlightened mutuality. This year, we were all heartened by the success of the Muslim Student Association and Hillel as they co-sponsored an art gala that brought together Muslims, Jews, and representatives of other faiths. They exemplified the urge toward and the successful achieving of a kind of empathy for which this world hungers so deeply. Along the way, this year, Emory was designated by the World Health Organization as one of only 200 communities in the world, one of only 2 universities, in fact, designated by that organization as a safe community. And there's a connotation in this that you have a special calling to look out for each other, to be responsible together. Among the laments that we hear about higher education, one particularly sorrowful note sometimes sounded is that universities foster, in the words of a former Ivy League dean, that we foster excellence without a soul. I am proud of you to say that this class of 2012 has demonstrated excellence with a soul, and we at Emory are grateful for that. Indeed. I should applaud you. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2012, I speak with confidence on behalf of your faculty, staff, and administration when I say that we are proud of you. We are pleased that you've been a part of this caring community that we called Emory. When you leave here, you will, of course, still be part of us. But we have no doubt that you will carry your empathy into the communities that await you. In fact, this is something that you must do. Society needs that special combination of intellectual power of the mind and wisdom of the heart that you have developed and exercised here. So with every expectation of your success, congratulations on your achievements and for what you have been and for what you have taught us while you were here. Thank you. Now, as you leave this place, you join an august company of more than 114,000 Emory alumni spread around the world. And we're honored to have with us today a very special band of those alumni who have demonstrated in their lives and careers the legacy of virtue and knowledge, the same legacy that's bequeathed to you. We call this group the Corpus Cordis Aureum. It's Latin for the golden core of the heart. They are clad in gold robes with specially commissioned medallions, and these alumni are members of the 50th reunion class. They are what you will be when you return to the graduation commencement ceremonies in 2062. This group includes also, by the way, members from classes that graduated prior to 1962. Ladies and gentlemen of the Corpus Cordis Aureum, would you all stand as you are able and allow us to appreciate and recognize you. Thank you, and you may be seated. You may be curious about a few facts about the Emory graduates, about who you are. There are nearly 4,200 degrees and certificates to be conferred this day, a huge increase over the prior year, by the way. 43% of you receiving degrees will be men, 57 women. Each year in this script, it says to pause for a possible reaction. I think we can take that out. We know it's going to happen. All 50 states of the United States are represented by our graduates. 694 of today's graduates come from 85 nations abroad. And the flags of those nations, most of them anyway, are located at either end of the quadrangle. 25 of you are service veterans. Thank you. 23 of our degree recipients are over 50 years of age. The youngest bachelor's degree candidate is 19 years old. Yeah, I know. The oldest bachelor's graduate is 53 years old. That's Emily Henson. Congratulations to you. She'll be earning her Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. And the oldest degree candidate, most mature, we should change that, degree candidate overall, is 59 years old, Deborah Woolley, who earned a Master of Public Health. Congratulations. All of you, of course, make us feel young on a day like this. Students who have garnered honors and prizes of all sorts, they're listed in your soggy bulletins there, programs, on pages 36 through 48. And beginning on page 35, though, is a special list, 66 folks, 66 individuals, who merit special attention by having earned 2 degrees simultaneously, a master's and a doctoral degree, 2 master's degrees, and a bachelor's and a master's degree, that kind of combination. I'd like you folks to stand so that we could acknowledge and honor you, if you would. Now, representing all of those honors, the many honors garnered by our outstanding students and faculty, we picked 3 university-wide honors to present at this ceremony. And details of the accomplishment of these 3 special award winners are included on page 4 of your program. Symbolic of all honors bestowed on students by this university is the Marion Luther Brittain Award. It's an expression of gratitude for service performed without expectation of reward or recognition. And to present that award, I will call to the lectern our Senior Vice President for Campus Life, Dr. John Ford. John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present the 2012 Marion Luther Brittain Award to Evan Clayton Dunn. Would Evan's family please stand to be recognized with him? A senior in Emory College of Arts and Sciences, Evan is a candidate for a Bachelor of Arts in both political science and history. He began his studies at Oxford College and spent more than 900 hours volunteering with various organizations. After transitioning to the Atlanta campus, Evan began working with Volunteer Emory, serving as an orientation leader, and starting a GED tutoring program in Clarkston, Georgia. In the Emory College Honor Council, he became president of Academic Reforms and chair of the Committee for Academic Integrity. He has received awards far too numerous for us to list today. We're very proud to add today's recognition to that list. Congratulations, Evan.
The Scholar Teacher Award gratefully acknowledges the long and patient work of a member of the Emory University faculty. And it's a pleasure this morning to present that 2012 Scholar Teacher Award to the Betty Tigner Turner Clinical Professor of Nursing, Dr. Sarah Freeman. As Professor Freeman, that's great. As Professor Freeman comes forward, previous winners, please stand so that you can join her in this honor. As a nurse, sure. As a nurse practitioner for more than 35 years, Professor Freeman has had a powerful and lasting impact on women's health and chronic disease management. She is the director of both the Women's Health Nurse Practitioner Program and the combined Women's Health and Adult Health Nurse Practitioner Program at the School of Nursing. Furthermore, she teaches bioethics in both the MSN and PhD programs here. She is a tireless advocate for nurse practitioner education and was a central figure in the establishment of criteria for accreditation of the Women's Health Nurse Practitioner programs. In addition to her many awards and accolades, she was named Nurse Practitioner of the Year in Education and Research and received the Wysocki National Leadership Award in Women's Health. Wonderful congratulations to you for this well-earned, well-deserved honor. The Thomas Jefferson Award is Emory's premier recognition for service to the university by a member of the faculty or administration, and it is a pleasure this morning to present the 2012 Thomas Jefferson Award to Goodrich C. White Professor of Anthropology, Professor Peggy Bartlett. And as she comes forward, would other winners please stand? Professor Peggy Bartlett began her academic career working in Costa Rica and Ecuador before landing in rural Georgia. Her career has been defined by an abiding interest in farmer decision-making, rural social change, agricultural systems, and sustainable development. The university's reputation as a national leader in campus sustainability, I can assure you, is a direct result of her persistence, her commitment, and her hard work. Through her expertise as an anthropologist and her passion for place-based pedagogy, Professor Bartlett has helped to transform Emory, and in doing so, has made major contributions to higher education in this world we inhabit. Professor Bartlett, great congratulations on this well-deserved honor. It is now my privilege to present Ben Johnson III of the Emory College class of 1965 and chair of our Emory Board of Trustees, so that he can authorize the conferral of degrees.
President Wagner, esteemed members of the university faculty, and distinguished guests, on behalf of the trustees of Emory University, I take great pleasure in accepting the recommendations of the president and the faculties of Emory University. I hereby authorize you to confer degrees upon the 2012 graduates, together with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Our first degrees go this morning to 5 special guests who have distinguished themselves in the fields of art, history, higher education, business, and medicine. You will find brief biographies of these eminent individuals on pages 6 and 7 of your program. Before we confer the degrees in course to all of you, it is our privilege this morning first to present degrees honoris causa to them. So, Dean Robin Foreman, will you present our first 2 honored guests?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the great honor to place the name of Ms. Camille Billups in candidacy to receive the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, and also to place the name of Dr. James Hatch in candidacy to receive the degree of Doctor of Letters.
Camille Billups, extraordinary artist. Your manifold genius has enabled you to share your humane vision through media, old and new. From the ancient artifice of fashioning material things to the modern magic of catching life on film. Creative energy flows from you in abundance, shaping substance and genre to its purpose. Honoring the legacies of art in which you work, you have partnered with James Hatch in preserving and handing them forward to guide the artistry of new generations. For your capacity to evoke and empower the human spirit, and for your faithfulness to our common heritage, we bestow on you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you.
James V. Hatch. With energy and insight, you have hallowed a place for African American theater in the canon of our literature and on the stages of our cities. Your scholarship moves beyond the elucidating page and into the foundational work with Camille Billups to gather a living archive over decades. Your partnership with her in film has left a testimony to the humor, grace, and meaning of life, carried out often amid the tragic and surreal. For your unique contributions to our landscape of art and scholarship, and for your faithfulness to our common heritage, we bestow on you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. Now, Dean Lisa Tedesco, will you present our third honored guest?
Mr. President,
Madam Dean.
it's a great honor to present to you Dr. Catherine Stenson to receive the degree Doctor of Letters.
Catherine R. Stenson, eminent dean, achieving through scholarship your perfect calling, you exercise your considerable gifts of insight, irony, order, and voice to serve human dignity and freedom. Along the way, you have found wisdom and skill to help others strengthen their own devotion to the love of exploration and the exuberance of learning. Knowing the sometimes anxious and lonely progress of graduate study, you advocate purposeful ways to nurture professional accomplishment while preserving the amateur's passion. With gratitude for the rigor, fairness, and openness you model for all who seek the community of scholarship, we bestow on you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you.
Dean Larry Benvenisti, will you present our fourth honored guest?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the great honor to present to you Dr. Mohammed Yunus to receive the degree of Doctor of Letters.
Mohammed Yunus, laureate economist, humanitarian entrepreneur, impelled by a venerable and vital blend of commercial interest and moral community, you have spent 40 years imagining for others a path out of life-sapping poverty. Your work through several Grameen enterprises has led countless families to productive lives. Your creative insights into the promise of social business have inspired untold thousands around the world who seek to emulate your mission. By making a small personal loan 4 decades ago, you began a movement. Grateful that you continue to apply knowledge in the service of humanity, we bestow on you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. And Dean Thomas Lawley, will you present our fifth honored guest?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present to you Dr. Benjamin Carson to receive the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
Benjamin S. Carson, Sr., courageous physician, exemplary humanitarian, tracing intellectual and spiritual ascent out of the bonds of a risk-filled childhood. Your story lifts the hearts and steels the courage of countless men and women. You combine learning, fortitude, and nimble hands to heal and save fragile lives. You have used your renown and influence to forge new, hopeful paths for young people. Your generous spirit and rigorous intellect demonstrate the world-transforming, life-engendering power of a wise heart harnessed to a keen and searching mind. In gratitude for the best qualities of humanity that shine brilliantly through your life and work, we bestow on you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. And at this time, I would like to ask Dr. Carson to deliver our keynote address. Dr. Carson.
Well, thank you very much. It is indeed a great honor to be here at Emory University, and congratulations to the graduates and to their families on this great milestone. You know, I have a lot of connections with Emory and know a lot of people who've come from Emory to Hopkins and vice versa. Dr. Mike Johns was the one who got me started doing complex craniofacial surgery. The late Dr. Frey Marshall, when he was an assistant professor and I was an intern, guided me through some of my very first operations. We have wonderful students who've come from Baltimore, like Allison Daniels, who's graduating here today, and just a host of amazing people that we know who are here at Emory. Now, let me just, at the outset say that I know there was some controversy about my views on creation, and that somebody thought that I said that evolutionists are not ethical people. Of course, I would never say such a thing and would never believe such a thing, nor would anybody with any common sense. So, you know, that's pretty ridiculous. But at any rate, enough said about that. You know, I, as a youngster, was incredibly interested in medicine. It was really the only thing that kind of grabbed my fancy. And if there was anything on television or the radio about medicine, I was right there like a magnet. I even liked going to the doctor's office. So, you know, that gives you some idea of what I was like. Going to the hospital was my favorite thing in the world. You know, most people, they go to the hospital and they have to wait for a few hours. They get all huffy and they say, you know, my time is important too. But not me. You know, I would sit out there in the hallway and we would have to wait for one of the interns or residents to see us because we were on medical assistants. But I didn't care because I was listening to the PA system. Dr. Jones to the emergency room. Dr. Johnson to the clinic. They sounded so important. And I would be sitting there thinking one day they'll be saying, Dr. Carson, Dr. Carson. But of course, nowadays we have beepers, so I still don't get to hear it. But it was the dream, you know, and sometimes that dream is really the only thing that pushes you through the very, very difficult times. But sometimes dreams can be bad. And some of you may remember some summers ago the case of the Basanti Twins, the 29-year-old Iranian women who were joined at the head. Their lifelong dream was to be separated. They scoured the world looking for a team that might be willing to take on that enormous risk. You know, when I was first contacted by them, I told them about Chang and Ing Bunker, the original Siamese twins, who lived to be 63 years old and never got separated. They didn't want to hear that. So they finally ended up with a team in Singapore that had had some success separating craniopithecus twins before. It was a team that I was familiar with and had worked with before. And somehow they managed to convince me to join them against my better judgment. But I must say, when I met those young ladies, I was duly impressed. They were vivacious. They had learned to speak English in only 7 months. Incredibly intelligent. They both had college degrees. They both had law degrees. Only one wanted one, but they both had law degrees. So, you know, they had a very thorough understanding of the risk that they were facing. And, you know, they said something to me that really struck me. They said, Doctor, we would rather die than spend another day stuck together. And that seemed kind of harsh, But then I did something that I highly recommend to everyone before you criticize someone. I put myself in their shoes. And I said, what would it be like to be stuck to somebody 24/7? It could be the person in the world you like the most. How long would you like them for? And I began to understand what it was that they were going through. Well, you know, that operation did go on. We were in the third day of the operation. We were 90% finished. Some people were starting to celebrate. I was not among them, because as we got to the very end of that operation, they began to bleed profusely under great pressure. It was impossible to stop the hemorrhaging, and they died. And you know, not everything that we do, obviously, is successful. And that really is kind of the history of surgery. You know, the first kidney transplants, disastrous. Heart transplants, lung transplants, liver transplants, disastrous. You'd say, why even bother? But things were learned, and that accumulated knowledge made it possible to be able to do those things, so vitally important. Thomas Edison said he knew 999 ways a light bulb did not work. You know, most of you have heard the cleaning formula 409. Why do they call it that? The first 408 didn't work. You know, you think about Walter Dandy, the incredible neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins many decades ago. The first one to do all kinds of things. First one to operate on the posterior fossa. People said, you can't operate back there. The compartment is too small. The brain will swell. They will die. But he operated on somebody with a lesion of the posterior fossa, and they died. And another, and they died. Another, they died. The first 13, they all died. Can you imagine how discouraged he must have been? I can't even imagine what he said to the 14th patient. You know, when they said, how'd the other 13 do? He probably said, nobody's complaining. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, he kept it up, and now we're able to do posterior fossa operations quite safely and quite routinely. And it's a matter of being able to learn from things that don't work, because we all get involved in them, and we should not become discouraged, but take something away from it, and it will not be a true failure. We can also learn from other people's mistakes. And this is so vitally important, because you are going out there to become the next generation of leaders in our nation. And there's a great deal that we can learn from other societies that have divided themselves. A wise man once said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And we find ourselves in a situation where we have such divisiveness. You know, Democrats have some good ideals. Democrats have some bad ideals. Republicans have some good ideals. Republicans have some bad ideals. That's why I'm an independent. But the fact of the matter is, you know, we have got to understand something. The symbol of our nation, bald eagle. And when you see an eagle flying, what do you notice about it? It has two wings, a left wing and a right wing. If it's both left wings, it crashes. If it's both right wings, it crashes. But when they work together, it is able to fly high and straight. And there is something that we need to learn about that, which will be incredibly important to us. I think the other thing that threatens the prosperity and the vitality of our nation is political correctness. You know, many people came to this nation, and they were trying to escape from societies that tried to tell them what they could say and what they could think. And here we come reintroducing it through the back door. And we need to remember that it is not important that we all think the same thing. And the emphasis should not be on us all saying that same thing. The emphasis should be on us learning how to be respectful of individuals who have a different opinion. And that's one of the things that made America great, the ability to engage in dialogue. And I've always said, if two people think the same thing about everything, one of them isn't necessary. And we need to be able to understand that if we're going to make real progress. There was a time in the history of the world when there was great intolerance for anybody who thought differently than the mainstream. It was called the Dark Ages. And there's some things that can be learned, even in places and in societies where we think we know everything. Because if you look over the course of time, you will find a migration of what is thought to be the truth. And if we all engage in appropriate intellectual discussion, I think we will get there much faster. I think the other thing that is so important for our success is persistence, understanding who we are, what our values are. You know, I remember when I started high school, I was a straight A student. I hadn't always been a straight A student. When I was in grade school, I was a terrible student. In fact, my nickname was Dummy. That's what everybody called me. And, you know, fortunately, I had a mother who believed in me when nobody else did. And she was always saying, Benjamin, you're much too bright to be bringing home grades like this. I brought them home anyway, but she was always saying that, and she was always being very, very encouraging. And she came home one day and she turned off the TV. And she said, you guys can only watch 2 or 3 TV programs during the week, and with all your spare time, you had to read 2 books apiece from the Detroit Public Libraries and submit to me written book reports, which she couldn't read, but we didn't know that. You know, she would put little check marks and highlights and underlines, but, you know, I really despised it. I didn't want to do it. But everybody else was outside playing and having a good time. There I was in the house reading books. And an interesting thing happened, though. I actually began to enjoy reading those books. We were desperately poor, but between the covers of those books, I could go any place, I could be anybody, I could do anything. I began to know things that nobody else knew. Within the space of a year and a half, I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class, much to the consternation of all those people who used to laugh and call me dummy. The same ones who called me dummy in the 5th grade were coming to me in the 7th grade, Benny, how do you work this problem? And I'd say, sit at my feet, youngster, while I instruct you. I was perhaps a little obnoxious, but it sure felt good to say that to those turkeys. But, you know, but that's one of the reasons that my wife and I have devoted so much time to encouraging young people, because we recognize that there's an enormous amount of untapped intellectual potential out there, and that we have to do everything we can to cultivate it. Because for every one of those young people around this nation who we can keep from going down that path of self-destruction, that's one less person we have to protect ourselves and our families from. One less person we have to pay for in the penal or the welfare system. One more tax-paying, productive member of society who may discover a new energy source or the cure for cancer. We cannot afford to throw any of them away. They're all important parts of our society. But as I entered high school, with all of this intellectual potential, I ran into perhaps the worst thing a young person can run into. It's called peers. Negative peers, P-E-E-R-S. That stands for people who encourage errors, rudeness, and stupidity. And that's exactly what they were doing, and I got caught up in that, and my grades began to plummet. And fortunately, I only wasted 1 year before I came to my senses and began to recognize, again, those values and those principles that were going to drive me towards success. But there were other problems. You know, when I got to medical school, I was trying to fit myself into someone else's mold. And on the first set of comprehensive exams, I did terribly. And I was sent to see my counselor. And he looked at my record and he said, you seem like a very intelligent young man. I bet there are a lot of things you could do outside of medicine. He tried to convince me to drop out of medical school, said, you're not cut out to be a doctor. And it'll be so much easier for you and for everybody else if you drop out. We can actually help you get into another area of the university so you will not have wasted a year. Well, you can imagine, I was devastated. And I went back to my apartment and I just said, Lord, give me wisdom. And I started thinking. And I said, what kind of courses have you always done well in? What kind of courses have you struggled in? And I realized I did well in courses where I did a lot of reading, and I struggled in courses where I listened to a lot of boring lectures. And there I was listening to 6 to 8 hours worth of boring lectures every day. So I made an executive decision to skip the boring lectures and to spend that time reading. And the rest of medical school was a snap after that. And some years later, when I went back to my medical school as the commencement speaker, I was looking for that counselor because I was going to tell him he wasn't cut out to be a counselor. Because, there's so many people who are just negative, and they can always think of a reason why something can't be done, but they don't spend very much time figuring out how things can be done. And by the way, those of you who are graduating and going on to medical school, I am not advocating skipping your lectures, okay? What I'm advocating is learning how you learn. And we all learn in a different way. And if we can do that, it will have a profound effect on how effective we are. The other thing about persistence and clinging to your belief is a story I want to end with. Because this is the year 2012. 200 years since the start of the War of 1812. And as you know, during the War of 1812, the British had decided that these young whippersnappers in America were not worthy of independence, and that they should once again become a British colony. And they were winning that battle as they marched up the eastern seaboard, conquering and destroying city after city, destroying Washington, D.C., burning down the White House. The next stop, the last bastion of defense, Fort McHenry, Baltimore Harbor. And as that armada of British battleships rolled into the Chesapeake Bay, gunships as far as the eye could see, it was indeed a bleak day. General Armistead, the commanding general of Fort McHenry, had had a large American flag commissioned to fly over the fort, which incensed the British admiral. He said, "That's offensive to us, take that flag down, or we will begin the bombardment of your fort, and we will continue that bombardment until that flag is reduced. It will become a pile of rubble." Aboard that ship was a young amateur American poet by the name of Francis Scott Key. And he had overheard the British plans. He was on board on a mission from President Madison to try to gain the release of an American physician who was being held captive. They were not going to let him off the ship since he had overheard the plans. And he knew that that evening the bombardment would start. And he mourned as he thought about his fledgling young nation about to become a colony once again. And that bombardment started as the sun went down. Bombs and missiles bursting in air. It looked like the 4th of July celebration. There was so much dust and debris. He strained his eyes to try to catch a glimpse of the fort to see if the flag was still flying. Could see nothing. All night long it continued. At the crack of dawn, first thing he was out at the railing looking, trying to see through the debris, but it was too thick. And as he hung his head, there was a clearing in the debris. And he saw the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. The stars and the stripes still waving. And that was the beginning, many historians say, of the turning of the tide of the War of 1812. And we went on to win that war and to defend the principles of freedom that we believed in. And if you had gone into the grounds of Fort McHenry that day, you would have seen on the ground the bodies of numerous American soldiers who took turns holding up that flag. They would not let that flag down. The epitome of persistence, which is what we must believe. And that will lead us to success. And what is true success? In 1997, I was asked to come to South Africa to head up a team in an attempt to separate type 2 vertical craniophagus twins, Siamese twins joined at the top of the head facing in opposite directions. I knew it was going to be a great challenge. There have been 13 attempts to separate such twins before, none of which had been successful. But it was also going to be a great social challenge because it was going to be done at the Medical University of South Africa at Medunsa, the only major black teaching hospital in South Africa, always the stepchild throughout apartheid and in the post-apartheid period. This was going to be their chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with Cape Town, Johannesburg, and all the other great universities. And I wasn't ready for all that social pressure, and I prayed for wisdom, and I looked at all the information we had, the angiograms, the MRIs, the CAT scans. I used our 3D workbench to put all that together into a three-dimensional image, put on the goggles, studied the vascular system, recognized that the common drainage system was narrower centrally than it was peripherally. And the traditional neurosurgical literature said in such a situation, you should decide which twin to give the drainage system to and divide them over the course of 3 or 4 operations, separated in time by weeks or months so that they could develop collateral circulation. But I felt impressed that if we concentrated on the area where things were narrowing down, that they would develop collaterals immediately, and we could do it all in one operation. And when I explained that to the team, they said, "You're the boss, we'll do whatever you want to do." And I remember going to that operating room 2 days before New Year's of '98. Big sign over the OR that said, "God bless Joseph and Luca Banda." And I was thrilled. I said, "Bring in a stereo system so we can play inspirational music." 19 hours into that operation, we were only 3/4 of the way finished. The part that remained was so complex. The blood vessels were engorged, they were adhesed, they were entangled. It looked impossible. We stopped the operation. And we talked about it, and I suggested maybe we could cover that area over with skin, and we could come back in several months and they would have developed enough collaterals that we could then cut through that area. And the doctors from South Africa and from Zambia said, "That's a great idea, but we don't have the ability to keep partially separated twins alive, they'll die." And now I really felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I went back in there. I didn't have all my fancy equipment that I have at Hopkins. I had my scalpel, my loops, a prayer on my lips. I went in there, I started cutting between those vessels that were so thin, you could see the anesthetic bubbles coursing through, just daring you to make a nick in them. Make a long story short, when I made the last cut that separated those twins, over the stereo system came the Hallelujah Chorus. Everybody had goosebumps, and when we finished that operation after 28 hours, one of the twins popped his eyes open, reached up for the endotracheal tube. When we got to the ICU, the other one did the same thing. Within 2 days, they were extubated. Within 3 days, they were eating. Within 2 weeks, they were crawling. And this month, they will be graduating from the 9th grade. But that thank you, but that was not the success. The success you had to be there to witness was the reaction of the people. This was done in their country, in their hospital. They were literally dancing in the street. Their level of self-esteem was so high. And that's what true success is all about. It is using the talent that you have to elevate other people. Thank you. Congratulations. Godspeed.
Dr. Carson, thank you for that message with so much in it. The value of authenticity, tolerance for diversity of thought, persistence using self-knowledge, commitment to values and principles, and vision. Thank you. Now we come to the Conferral of Degrees in course, the real reason you came. The deans will present their candidates for degrees in the order in which the schools of the university were founded, although there will be 2 exceptions. The graduate school will have the pride of place at the end to connote the highest degree awarded in course, the Doctor of Philosophy degree. And the degrees awarded to this year's graduates of Oxford College already were awarded 2 days ago in Oxford. So to honor them, would previous graduates of Oxford College please stand so that we may recognize you. Oxford grad. Terrific, thank you. And you may be seated. And now, Dean Foreman, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of Emory College of Arts and Sciences please rise? And will the student marshals come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the great honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of Emory College of Arts and Sciences.
You are heirs to a tradition of academic apprenticeship reaching back more than 800 years, and you have proven yourselves worthy of that tradition. I hereby confer your baccalaureate degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations. And you may be seated. Dean Lawley, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the School of Medicine please rise, and will the student marshals come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Medical Science, Masters of Medical Science, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and Doctor of Medicine. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of the School of Medicine.
Trained in the healing arts, you have demonstrated proficiency in sciences and technologies that serve humanity. Shortly, you will assume responsibility for all who commit their health and lives to your knowledge. I hereby confer your medical degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated. Dean McCauley, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Nell Hudson Woodruff School of Nursing please rise? And the student marshals come forward. I have the honor, Mr. President,
Madam Dean.
to present the candidates for the degree of the Bachelor of Science in Nursing and the Master of Science in Nursing. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their degrees, their course of study, and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of the School of Nursing.
Your profession offers the highest commitment to care of the whole person in the midst of changing demands in healthcare. I am pleased hereby to confer your nursing degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you may be seated. Dean Love, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Candler School of Theology please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President,
Madam Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Theological Studies, Master of Divinity, and Master of Theology. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of Candler School of Theology.
You have learned to probe spiritual mysteries, to minister to the often intractable spiritual ills that afflict individuals and society, and to exercise pastoral leadership and healing discernment, and to offer a message of love, peace, joy, and hope. I hereby confer your theology degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations. And you may be seated. Dean Shapiro, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the School of Law please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President.
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Doctor of Juridical Science, Doctor of Law, and Master of Laws. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the School of Law.
As civilization itself rests on a foundation of justice, you bear the obligation to establish justice even more firmly among us. I hereby confer your degrees, your law degrees, with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Dean Benvenisti, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Roberto C. Goizueta Business School please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President.
Mr. Dean.
I have the great honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Business Administration and for the degree of Master of Business Administration. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Goizueta Business School.
Accomplished in the language of trade, finance, and management, you are charged to go forth and accomplish the world's business with integrity as well as skill, fostering greater understanding among all peoples as the commerce of nations brings us in touch with what is different and new. I hereby confer your business degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations. You may be seated. Dean Curran, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Rollins School of Public Health please rise, and the student marshals come forward? Mr. President.
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Masters of Public Health and Master of Science in Public Health. Will the candidates please rise with agility and optimism? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Rollins School of Public Health.
As you address the endemic ills and epidemic diseases of our communities, you join men and women who have devoted their lives to making a healthier society. I hereby confer upon you your respective degrees with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations. And you may be seated. Now, Dean Tedesco, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the James T. Laney School of Graduate Studies please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President,
Madam Dean,
I have the distinct honor to present the candidates for the degrees of diploma for Master of Arts, Master of Arts in Teaching, Master of Business Science, Master of Music, Master of Sacred Music, and Master of Science. Will the candidates please rise?
thank you.
These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Laney Graduate School.
With mastery, you have earned the implicit vocation of teacher, whatever your career may be. I am pleased hereby to confer upon each of you the appropriate degree with all associated rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Congratulations.
Mr. President,
Madam Dean,
I have the additional great honor to present the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates, with full measure of wise hearts and powerful minds, have completed their course of study and their dissertations and are recommended for their degrees by the faculty of the Laney Graduate School.
you have attained the highest degree awarded in course, and I take great pride and pleasure in welcoming you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars. And I hereby confer upon each of you your doctoral degree with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, all gathered here, I am able to present to you now Emory University's class of 2012. Congratulations to all. You folks in the center can't appreciate the standing O you received from the side. It's there, it's real. Now that you have crossed over to alumni status, it's only right that you should meet the president of the Emory Alumni Association. And it is a pleasure to introduce Dirk Brown, who is a Gosueta Business School graduate of the class of 1990.
Distinguished graduates, as president of the Emory Alumni Association, I have the privilege of welcoming you formally to the ranks of alumni of this great university. While your cherished status as students may have ended all too quickly, you each will bear the title of alumnus or alumna for the rest of your lives. Today, you join a dynamic group of men and women more than 100,000 strong. Would everyone in the audience who is an alumnus or alumna of Emory University, except for today's graduates, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Please be seated. And would the class of 2012 please stand to be recognized as Emory's newest alumni. Class of 2012, we hope that you like your fellow alumni, will maintain ties to Emory, will help build its future, and will always feel at home here. As your colleagues, we know that the university has imparted values as well as knowledge, and we look forward to witnessing the leadership you provide in the communities of your choice. Wherever you go, you will always be part of the Emory community and will take a little of Emory with you. As you make your mark in the world, please stay in touch, stay involved, visit often, and let us hear from you. As alumni, all of us, we wish you well and congratulations.
Thank you, Dirk, and you may be seated. Graduates, as you prepare to depart from this place for the time being, only the time being, please cherish the memory of those who have worked so hard to help you on your way. In fact, would all faculty and staff stand so that graduates may salute you for the knowledge that you've given them and for the tremendous work that you have done in their behalf. Faculty and staff. Well deserved. Thank you. You may be seated. There's one more group present today that deserves a moment of recognition. Will all parents, partners, spouses, children of today's graduates please stand so that graduates may salute you for your love, support, and guidance during their time here. Thank you. Now, finally, serving as president of Emory University, I have the privilege of speaking the last official word to you. As you embark on the next chapter of your lives, I hope that you will recall the words that express the vision for this university. Recall that your lives should be inquiry-driven, that your hearts and minds should be ethically engaged, and that the best community is one that makes room for the miraculous diversity of humankind. Remember to be at work for positive transformation in the world through your own courageous leadership, no matter what field of endeavor you work in. We are privileged to have been together for these times, but with such great privilege also comes great responsibility. To whom much is given, from them much will also be required. Now, I have no doubt that with your Emory education, you will leave here and you will do well. But even as you do well, I challenge you also to do good. So on behalf of Emory University, I congratulate you and wish you the very best. For myself, personally, I'll miss you. And I wish you Godspeed. Congratulations to all. And now let us all rise to receive the benedictions.
From the Buddhist tradition, a prayer to Tara, the Buddha of enlightened activities, for our beloved graduating students. Om Jondende mala mojul mala chagsil jol matare pa mo tutare jigu selma dure donam tam chetema soa ige chela rahoidu. Tare, liberator from samsara, tutare, liberator from 8 fears, ture, liberator from all disease, liberator, mother, I prostrate to you.
From the Christian tradition, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've made, a day to gather to celebrate the end of one chapter in our lives and to rejoice in the beginning of another. Lord Jesus, we ask that you would place your hand over us as we move forward into this world, instilling us a loving and giving heart for the people, that we may be a light in the darkness. Enable us to use our gifts and our talents not for selfish gain, but to help those who are less fortunate in our communities. Let us be colorblind, rid us of all greed, and make us selfless, that we may be able to be fair in all our dealings. Let us be loving, that we may be able to reach out to those in need. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
From the Hindu tradition, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palaheturbhur ma te sangostva karmani yogasta kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam anvicha kripanaha palahetavaha. Be intent on action, not on the fruit of action. Avoid attraction to the fruits and attachment to inaction. Perform actions firm in discipline, relinquishing attachment. Be impartial to failure and success. This equanimity is called discipline. Action is far inferior to the discipline of knowledge, so seek refuge in knowledge.
On behalf of the Muslim tradition, Salam everyone. May there be peace and blessings upon you all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin the prayer in the name of God, the most beneficent, the merciful. I want to share with you the words of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, quoted by Imam al-Bukhari. He said, whoever follows a path in the pursuit of knowledge, God will make the path to paradise easy for him. During our time here, we have gained an abundance of knowledge. So let us make sure to use it wisely to make the world we live in a better place and make life with its problems a bit easier to face.
From the Jewish tradition, as we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Blessed are you who gives us life and sustains us, so that we may come together at this place, at this time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen. Please continue standing for the singing of the alma mater by a special Commencement Acapella Quartet. The lyrics are on the first page of your program.
In the heart of dear old Emory, where the sun doth shine, that is where our hearts are turning round old Emory's shrine. We welcome. Though the years around us gather, crowned with love and cheer, still the memory of old Emory grows to us more dear. We will ever sing thy praises, sons and daughters true. Hail we now our alma mater, hail the gold and blue. We will ever sing thy praises, sons and daughters true. Hail we now our alma mater, hail the gold and blue.
Thank you so much. And now would the new graduates just of the Emory College of Arts and Sciences please be seated. And would all families and guests please be seated as the faculty and the non-college graduates march to their respective diploma ceremonies. Those ceremonies will begin at the times and locations indicated on page 7 of the program. Once all the graduates have departed, the gates of the seating aisles will open up so that Emory College faculty members wishing to move a little bit closer may do so. Please allow those faculty members leaving the quad a lane in the aisles to pass by, and wait patiently, as I know you will, until the gates are open before slowly walking to the new seats. And now we need to clear the way and let the recessional begin.